Tonight, it would seem that Dan DiDio has convinced everyone that Dick Grayson is actually evil. Legion of Superheroes has more heroes than it does pages in its comic book. And public service announcement, don't read Catwoman in public. All this and more on the not-so-new 52. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 3 of the Not So New 52. I am your host and dear God, did any of you watch episode 2? That went on way too long. When I initially thought this show out, I was thinking, yeah, this will probably take like an hour. No, that was 2 hours long. That's my bad though. I was thinking I could just mentally keep track of the time and it would be about right, but clearly I can't. So this time I'm doing much more in terms of staying quick and focused and precise in my reviews. So that includes this intro. Let's just get right into this week's comics. This week of September 21st, 2011, we have Batman #1, Birds of Prey #1, Catwoman #1, Nightwing #1, Red Hood and the Outlaws #1, Supergirl #1, Green Lantern Corps #1, Captain Atom #1, DC Universe Presents #1, Wonder Woman #1, Blue Beetle #1, and Legion of Superheroes #1. This is going to be the smallest it's going to be for a while. 12 comics instead of 13. Hooray. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into our first book, which is Batman #1. Batman #1, written by Scott Snyder, art by Greg Capullo. Do I really even need to talk about this? I mean, I will, but I feel like Justice League #1 notwithstanding, this is the comic that everyone has already read. But hey, whatever. It's not going to be a new 52 show without Batman. So we open up. There's a breakout at Arkham Asylum. Literally the entire Rogues Gallery, just to show off, I guess, how he draws the entire Rogues Gallery. And the entire time, Batman has this overarching narration about this newspaper column in the Gotham Gazette where the reporters go out and they ask random citizens of Gotham, hey, finish this sentence. Gotham is blank. And 90% of the time they say awful, terrible, the worst city ever. But occasionally other words find their way in. Sometimes villain names like Mr. Freeze because it's such a cold and unforgiving place. But sometimes, of course, Batman, Batman City, the Dark Knight's world, whatever you want to call it. So he's just reminiscing about this. At one point he gets kicked out of a window, and who's there waiting but the Joker, who then Batman and Joker start fighting alongside each other to beat up all the people in Arkham, which everyone in Arkham's like, excuse me, what? Cut to the rooftop of Gotham City Police Department. Batman's talking to Jim Gordon. He's like, I don't understand. We had a full breakout at Arkham. How? And he's like, one of the guards was, he's having a tough time and he kind of fell to some greed. And Jim's like, okay, well, I'll take a look into that. By the way, we looked at the video footage. Did you fight with, alongside the Joker? And he's like, no, that'd be crazy, Jim. He's like, oh, yeah, that's what I thought. Then cut to the Batcave. Just take a full page spread of how beautiful Greg Capullo draws it. And Joker comes up and talks to Bruce and is like, wow, you actually do practice brooding in here. Bruce is wearing a tuxedo, just sitting in a chair. He's like, no, I'm not. And he flips on this display. He's testing out computerized contact lenses that allow him to be in the Batcave at all times. He's like, yeah, that sounds healthy. Turns out it's not the Joker. It's Dick Grayson. He's wearing a mask that makes him like a computer mask that bends the light or something. They don't really explain it, but it's a thing. They go upstairs. They're both dressed in tuxes. Bruce Wayne is throwing some sort of party or something. Turns out the entire Gotham Is thing was just the opening to his speech that he's giving, where he's saying, yeah, Gotham is terrible. It's the city where my parents died, but you know what? Why not try to make it a better place? And so he reveals his plans to basically build a better Gotham. He has these plans in hologram form of all these skyscrapers, and everyone's like, wow, that's amazing, incredible. So then he goes around, he starts talking to people at the party. And one of the people he meets is a mayoral candidate, Lincoln March, who I guess they see pretty eye to eye on. They're just, talking about some stuff. As soon as they start talking, though, Bruce notices that Jim Gordon's over by the window on his phone, talking frantically. He turns on a lip-reading app in his contact lenses and sees that someone's been stabbed a whole bunch. So Bruce makes one of his trademark excuses to leave the conversation and go out as Batman. He meets Detective Bullock at the crime scene. A complete John Doe, no identity whatsoever. He's been strung up and stabbed with a bunch of throwing knives. All of them have owls on the handle. Batman then smells something. He says it smells like paint thinner. He sets it to the wall, and then a message lights up. It says Bruce Wayne will die tomorrow. I guess this whole time they were also doing like a DNA check. Because then he gets a call from Alfred back from the Batcave saying, yeah, we've got a DNA match. It's Dick Grayson. End of issue. I like it. I'm not gonna say I don't like it. I definitely like it. It's a good issue. I'm more blown away by the art than anything else. The panel where they show Jim Gordon just smoking a cigarette on top of the thing, like, it looks fantastic. Everything about it is fantastic. And that goes for pretty much the whole issue. I can't fault the art at all. When it comes down to writing, I mean, it's basic. It's just setting up, okay, here's what Batman is right now. Here's something moving forward. Here's setting up a little bit of mystery in the end. And then the big reveal to get you to buy issue number 2. I'm fine with it. It's good. Overall, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. It's good. Not a whole lot happening in this issue specifically, but it's setting up some good things moving forward. So, yeah, prepare for Batman for the entire rest of this podcast. Birds of Prey, Issue 1, written by Duane Swierczynski, art by Jesus Saiz. This is really hard to recap because it is told very much out of order, but I'm going to do my best. So we open up, there's a cathedral, a dude is inside, his name is Mr. Keene, he's a reporter, and he's been told to follow this lead, but he's not getting enough answers from his source, so he's just asking for a little bit more. The source apparently has a sniper rifle trained on him, and he goes to take the shot when a car comes crashing through the church, and out stops a woman named Starling, who I am completely unfamiliar with. But this issue does nothing to explain her either, so whatever. We see who's behind the sniper rifle. It's this dude in like a transparent suit, like an invisibility suit. He's like, we expected this, killed the driver, and then Black Canary shows up and is like, what about me? Starts fighting him, takes him out, and then she gets strung up by a noose, and she's like, oh, there were more of you. So then whole fight scene breaks out with Starling trying to protect the reporter. She's just shooting people left and right. And then we get a flashback to how did we get here? Let's go back 2 weeks. The reporter is already staking out Dinah Lance, Black Canary, seeing her go to a hotel. She knows that he's there. And she's meeting up with Barbara Gordon, a.k.a. Batgirl. And it's like, hey, Barbara, nice to see you walking again. And she's like, oh, Dinah, I don't think we can talk after what you did, because she's wanted by the law, and apparently she's wanted for murder. We don't get a huge explanation on that. I'm assuming that's a future plot point. Anyway, Dinah just wanted some help getting a connection or something, and Barbara says, all right, take a look into this woman. And it's Katana, who's not featured for the rest of the issue, so I'm not going to spend too much time on her. So then, cut back to the fight. Dinah cuts herself down from the noose, starts kicking ass, uses her canary cry, her sonic blast, to basically deafen and take everyone else out. Then jumps down to help out Starling in her fight. Starling and the reporter get in the car and start driving away. Well, I say driving away, but we'll get to that. So then we cut back 1 week ago. We're inside of a diner. Starling's there, and so is Black Canary, but they don't ever talk, according to the reporter. So at that point, he figures, okay, I'm not getting anything else out of Black Canary. Let me go to this Starling girl. And I don't even know if he knows their names. Apparently he does know their names. No, he doesn't. Just, okay, it's someone... He somehow picks up the name Ev. I don't know. It's really unclear as to what he knows, and you'll see why at the end. But he does a little bit of research into Starling. Can't find anything. It's like she's not even like a real person. So now he's at the end of his rope, and he's like, all right, I need some more answers. Let me talk to my source. And then we get to now, where he's in the church and he's doing whatever. So she's driving the car into the crowd where they're all fighting. Black Canary jumps out of the way onto the hood of the car, pulls out the mask of one of the guys and be like, all right, who are you? And dude's like, I'm the one who just killed you, and gives her a kiss, which she does not take kindly and beats the crap out of him. And then I guess they crash into the front doors of the church. Everyone else makes their way out fine. It's just the criminal dude who gets hit by debris, I guess. So then they start talking to Keen, and it's like, yeah, we knew you were there the whole time. Look, we're not that bad, but yeah, we do have some red on our ledger. So we're not going to kill you, but you got to understand that they were going to kill you. So we don't know, like they were using you to get to us. So we're just going to take you off the board. We've got a flight set up for you out of the city where you're just going to lay low until we can deal with this. And he's like, oh, all right, glad I was such an important character. So they get to the airport, and he's like, well, thank both of you. God bless you, you two people who may have committed murder. And then he checks his phone. Starling says that something's up with him. Black Canary gets a little bit of a headache. Keen's eyes start bleeding, and then he explodes. End of issue. Gotta say, didn't see that one coming. Overall, I liked it. It was a good issue. Once you read the whole thing, it all makes sense. It's just very hard to recap. It's maybe a bit too vague for its own good. I know it's, comic books, they want you to buy the next issue, so you got to set up questions, but I'm not, like, the character that they attached me to from the beginning of this, they just literally blew up, so I'm not super attached to any of the other stuff yet because they were just too vague. That's my only writing flaw, I could say, really. Art-wise, it's fine. It's nothing to write home about. It's pretty average stock style. So, yeah, I'd say I'd give this maybe I give this like a 6.5. It's fine. I'm not super excited for the next issue, but who knows? Maybe because I don't know what the plot is yet. I have no idea. So, who knows? It can go anywhere from here. But overall, just a pretty average issue to begin with. Catwoman #1, written by Judd, Winick, art by Guillem, March. I read this comic at work. Do not read this comic at work. For the love of God, this is not safe for work. Just to briefly explain why, we open up. Catwoman is running through her apartment trying to get her costume on. Somebody's trying to break in. Somebody she pissed off by stealing something from. She doesn't even know who they are. They're all wearing skull masks, though. She leaps out the window before they can get to her. She's like, all right, well, I don't know who these guys are, but I'll swing by back in a couple days once the heat is off, and I'll get my stuff. And then her apartment explodes, and she's like, all right, different plan. She goes and talks to a friend of hers named Lola, who was a showgirl, as specifically mentioned. She says, hey, I need a place to stay. Can you find me something? She's like, what's wrong with my place? She's like, you want me living here? She's like, no, but why all the judgment? And then she basically needs a job of being able to, get some money because she lost all of her stuff in that explosion. Lola mentions that the penthouse of this hotel is going to be empty for a few weeks. She's like her informant. She's the person, she's the guy behind the chair sort of deal. But it's just this woman who was a showgirl and apparently just has connections. So she can stay in the penthouse, and then she's got an idea for a job of like this Russian mafia thing. But the only way that she can get information on it is by listening in where they feel they can speak openly, which is this very seedy strip club. So she goes in dressed as a bartender so she doesn't have to be groped by dirtbags. Quote, not that I mind groping or even dirtbags, but it's the combo that I can do without. Anyway, she overhears some guys talking that there's a painting that's completely worthless, but it means a lot to some guy up in charge, so it actually holds a lot of worth to him. And Catwoman's like, sounds good, I'll take that. But then she hears this guy named Renaud, who I guess is supposed to be in jail because of some awful, terrible thing he did. It looked like he shot some woman in front of Selina when she was a kid. And he's supposed to be in jail, but he's not now. It kind of just flashes by that real quick. But anyway, she follows Renaud into the bathroom. And there's a panel here of her getting closer to him in a way that he would enjoy. And then she unleashes just this flurry of slashes on him. Good panel layout here. It's a lot of blacks and whites and reds just for the blood and her disguised hair. Anyway, the real bartender apparently woke up because she was chloroformed this whole time, so she has to put on her Catwoman gear to make her exit. She fights through the club, makes her escape, and then goes to this penthouse where she's like, wow, alright, so that was kind of a lot. Batman is there waiting, like, hey, I heard your apartment got firebombed, are you alright? She goes and makes out with Batman. Batman's like, we're not doing this again. And then, very explicitly, they are doing it again. And it ends in this penthouse, quote, and most of the costumes stay on. The art's great. The art's fantastic. It's very nice looking. It has this watercolor sort of coloring to it. I really like it. It's got a good feel to it. The attack scene in the bathroom, very violent. I really like how they did that. The issue comes down to the writing and the characterization of Selina Kyle, a.k.a. Catwoman. In that, wow. Like, wow. It's just like, okay, so there's a difference between being objectified and then being proud of your own, like, body and whatnot. And half of this is her being proud of herself. Like, that's fine. But then, like, the very first panel, I'm not kidding, the very first panel is just a close-up on her chest in a bra. And then as she's breaking out of the apartment, it's her ass in latex. And then a full-page spread of her leaping out a window, but her costume's not fully on, so we still get to see the bra. And I'm like, none of this is necessary. This all just feels like you just really wanted to, you know? You just wanted to show this off. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure he did. I'm sure this was, you know, hey, exclusively to that. And then, like, all the dirtbag, like the groping line that I mentioned before, it all just feels a little bit, this isn't okay 10 years later, guys. Like, if modern DC, if the comics that are being published now saw this, they would be like, oh no, back to the drawing board for you. Art's really gonna carry this one. I'm gonna give this 5.5, because overall it does feel kind of average. It just feels really icky. And the good lord, the sex with Batman on the you know what? I'm bringing it down to a 5 actually, just because of that ending, because it's just exploitative. Oh no. Okay, so 5 for Catwoman #1. Please let me read my comics at work. Nightwing #1, written by Kyle Higgins, art by Eddy Barrows. This is Red Suit Nightwing. For anybody familiar with Nightwing, he's always had the blue is kind of his color, and as soon as the new 52 was introduced, they decided, nope, red. Why? They don't explain it. But it's red now. Anyway, moving on. So, Dick Grayson, he's talking about how the past year he's been filling in for Bruce Wayne because Bruce was dead. So he was being Batman, but now he's finally back being Nightwing, and he says how fantastic he feels to be himself again. Get a random just a random baddie on a subway, dude with a knife killing people. He talks about how he's got his form down, his technique perfect after being Batman. Before he was good, but now he's perfect. And he takes out the guy on the subway without so much as a second thought. So now Gotham has nothing that can scare him. And as if on cue, something that scares him, Haley Circus, the place where he was a child, he grew up, and his parents died after they were killed by Tony Zuko, who cut the trapeze wires or whatever that his parents were swinging on, and they both fell to their death. It is back in Gotham, and he keeps on trying to find the nerve to go and visit in order to meet everybody again, because it's been... He's talked to them in the meantime. He's seen the circus, but this is the first time it's been back in Gotham since then. Cut to some dude stepping off a bus. People are like, hey, got some nice sunglasses. Gonna take them. And he's like, okay. And he just straight up kills them by snapping their necks and crushing their heads in with his feet. So he's not a good guy. Cut back to Dick Grayson. He's in his apartment. He thinks that it's better to live in the bad part of town because that's the part of town where he's trying to clean up, as opposed to Bruce, who lives in a mansion away from the bad part of town. And also, he doesn't really take care of his suit either. He just leaves it out on the floor, completely crumpled up. So, showing some differences between him and Bruce. He does make it to the circus. He stops in. He talks to his old friends. The clown is apparently really pissed off because he has to be a clown in Gotham, which never really goes over very well for him. Then he's greeted by who I assume is a childhood friend back from the day. Her name is Raya. She is a redhead, as Dick Grayson is very fond of. We meet the new catcher for the acrobatics act. He's like, hey man, sorry about your parents. And he's like, dude, seriously? He's like, oh, I didn't mean, sorry. You want to go for a swing? So he gets up on the acrobatic bars and he's doing fantastically. And then he fakes a miss just so nobody gets too suspicious because he hasn't technically practiced since the accident. So he's happy. He says he's going to catch up with Raya later. And as he's walking home, some dude jumps out and tries to kill him. We don't know that it's the dude on the bus, but it's almost certainly the dude on the bus. And he's like, Dick Grayson, I've been looking for you. And he fights for maybe all of 5 seconds before some cops come out and try to break it up. Dick dives off so they can get his costume on. Dude slices the cops' throats with basically Wolverine claws. That's his weapon of choice, is Wolverine claws. And then Nightwing steps out. And he's like, oh, Dick Grayson has a protector, huh? Well, you shouldn't be protecting him because he's a, what's the exact word here? Dick Grayson is the fiercest killer in all of Gotham, and he doesn't even know it. And Nightwing's like, what? What are you talking? But it catches him so off guard that the assassin is able to get in a lucky hit and knocks down this water tower, which takes Dick out, and the guy standing over him, claws and all, and end issue. I like it. It's solid. It's good. I'm wondering why we're so dedicated to Dick Grayson being a killer, because the same thing happened in Batman this week. So, I don't know. That's weird that that's the direction they're going, that Dick Grayson is evil now. See how long it actually sticks, but hey, whatever. The other thing that's just a mild writing issue, and I know it just has to happen, like, this is just the thing, is he's literally out of the fight for 10 seconds. The guy kills 2 cops. And then he's back in his Nightwing, who looks exactly like Dick Grayson. And the guy's like, oh, so you're defending Dick Grayson, huh? It's like, I understand that, like, you can't immediately see through his disguise. But it was a 10-second period where Dick Grayson was gone, and suddenly Nightwing appeared. I feel like you should be able to put 2 and 2 together there. Like, that wasn't even hard, but whatever. That's just me being nitpicky. Overall, I like this issue. It doesn't do a whole lot to set up, like, I don't know which path we're going to take. Is it going to be the killer? Is it going to be the circus? Are the two linked somehow? Because as far as we know, the guy on the bus is not related to the circus at all. So maybe they might converge later on. But I don't know. Art's fine. It's nothing really to write home about. Eddie Barrows, he does a good job with like the action. I can feel the acrobatics of Dick, especially on the subway scene and when he's showing off in the circus. But nothing's really jumping out at me as, wow, that's incredible. So no, overall, I'd say pretty average issue. I'll give it like a 6.5. It's good. It's just not jumping out at me. And honestly, like, it's just the guy standing over him at the end. Like, it doesn't even feel like that much of a, like, oh, what is Dick Grayson going to do? Well, he's going to get up. Like, that's duh. So, yeah, no, I'll give it like a 6.5. It's fine. It's not blowing me away, but hey, it's going to be a while with Nightwing, so we got time to see it get better. Red Hood and the Outlaws, #1, written by Scott Lobdell, art by Kenneth Rocafort. I want to make something very clear here. For anyone who knows me personally, they know that I like subjecting certain people to Red Hood in various different Scott Lobdell written forms, but that does not mean that I personally like Red Hood written in various Scott Lobdell written forms. So, just to be clear here, I'm not going into this saying 10 right away just for the sake of the meme. Just want to make that obvious. So, Red Hood and the Outlaws. Did we just forget that we did a reboot? Is that just, like, okay, so it opens up, Jason Todd, he is the Red Hood, he was the second Robin, he was killed, whatever. He's being attacked by a dude with a metal jaw saying, give up, escape is impossible. So he shoots the dude in the head. And then there's this giant ship underwater, which I guess he's a part of. He tries to break out. Ship explodes, and he's unconscious. Cut to a bit later. He's naked on an island. There's some machine that's like keeping him conscious or something like that. Another few days pass, and we see, I'm just going to skip the reveal. It's Starfire. Starfire comes up, and she's like, you seem really familiar, but I can't quite place it. And then as soon as she gets close enough, he holds his gun up and it's like, where are my pants? And then he starts feeling a bit woozy. She's like, hey, no, you just calm down. She melts his gun without even thinking about it. But she tells him to rest. That night, he wakes up again. He has a dream about talking to Dick Grayson, and he's just like, he's Robin, Dick Grayson's there, and he's just like, hey, just chill, all right? Patience is a virtue. Try not to, jump the gun on too much. And he's like, oh my God, shut up. You left as Robin. This is my job. I don't care about what you think. And Nightwing's like, God, what a little piece of, literally, it says, what a little, and then cuts. So then Jason finally gets up, still naked, walking around with some leaves in front of his no-no zone. And he stumbles through the island until finally comes across a giant alien shipwreck where he sees Starfire there. And she finally introduces herself. She is Princess Coriander of Tamaran. Jason says he's Jason Todd. And he starts getting really like, wow, okay, so you're an alien. How about this? How about that? How about this other thing? And Starfire's like, okay, you're like, I lived in solitude for all this time because humans are kind of annoying about me being an alien. Apparently, something about like, she's basically a walking nuclear arsenal, and that's kind of scary for certain people, but also desirable for others. So she just kind of puts herself into exile for some reason. Anyway, she tells Jason Todd, "Oh, here's some outfits you can wear," and one of the outfits is straight up Nightwing's outfit. Apparently, cut to a flashback of Jason during, I assume, Under the Red Hood. He's got Batman at the end of his gun, and then Nightwing comes in and kicks Jason in the face so he can get away. So Jason's understandably upset. He's like, oh, okay, so Nightwing, you want me to dress up as him, you sick perverted. And she's like, I have no idea who owned this, but I have good memories about it. So, yeah. Anyway, she shows off there's a bunch of like alien guns on the ship as well. Jason's getting a kick out of that, but he says, all I can think about is how to use it to hurt people. How far have I fallen from Dukra's teaching? I don't know who Dukra is. He doesn't explain it any further. I don't know. So anyway, they're out on the beach at night. Jason says he's got something to tell her, and she kisses him because of course she does, and they say how one assimilates the language despite the fact that they've already been talking, but we're skipping that. So anyway, they get to talking, and he tells her basically the entire story, how he was Robin, how he worked with Batman, blah, blah, blah. And then for some reason he asks if she is mad. I don't know why she would be. But she's just like, no, I'd be foolish. And then, they make up. They make it specifically clear that they're just friends. Like, it's not a romantic thing. They're just very good friends after this one conversation that admittedly takes like 6 hours apparently, but whatever. So anyway, the next day, Jason's looking online and he sees that Roy Harper, Arsenal, that guy, is going to be put to death in Karak because I guess he pissed off some people. And Jason asks Starfire if she's up for a road trip to save him. I don't hate it, but also it does so nothing. Like, it's just set up. There's like not, I guess the opening pages are supposed to be the action, but it's like not even. It's one gunshot and then the ship explodes, and then everything else is dealing with your feelings about Nightwing and Batman. And I guess that's something for some story, but for this it's just kind of like, okay, I guess. But my real problem comes from the fact of why does Starfire remember, or not remember, Dick Grayson, but remember enough about him that she has feelings for him. God damn it, Lobdell. This was a reboot. Just, she never met him. End of thing. Why was there a... sorry, that gets to me. Because it just makes everything complicated. In actual storytelling terms, I'm going to give this maybe like a... It's middling. Art, however, Rocafort, he kills it. Everyone looks great. Everything, it's super fine. I sometimes have problems with the way he does shading. Like, he does pencil shading before the colorist comes in, and it just sometimes looks a bit weird, but overall it's still fantastic. So I'm gonna give this a 6. Pretty average. If I'm ignoring the fact that Starfire just breaks the entire fact that there was a reboot and nobody should be remembering anything. If I take that into account, and just how much it personally pisses me off, I'd probably lower this down to like a 5.5. But I'm going with a 6 because it was a bumpy time. I'm willing to accept a little bit of whatever, but we'll see if that ever comes up again because I highly, highly doubt it. Supergirl, number 1, written by Michael Green and Mike Johnson, art by Mahmud Asrar. This is pretty much as origin story as it gets. Like, I didn't think they were going to completely undo everything in Supergirl when the new 52 hit, but no, this is totally fresh start, and it is a fast read. So, there's a meteor shower coming down on Smallville. You know the story, but apparently this is years and years later, and one of the meteors comes down and it just keeps going. It literally buries through the earth, cutting through the mantle and coming out the other side in Serbia. So obviously alien spaceship, and out comes Kara, out comes Supergirl. But this is her coming from Krypton, and she says, have you ever had that feeling like you've been asleep for a really long time, what seems like a lifetime? And basically she's thinking, man, this has to be a dream, because like, A, I shouldn't be wearing this outfit. This is for like some special event. She says when she graduates. B, it's never like snowed on Krypton. C, I should feel freezing, but all I feel is a cool breeze, so clearly this is a dream. And then some giant metal robots land and say, stop where you are. She can't understand them, though, because they're speaking in English. She only knows Kryptonian. And she's like, oh, giant metal creatures. This is an awesome dream. And then they get some, like, energy whips to keep her restrained. And she's like, okay, actually, this hurts badly. This is a bad dream, so time to wake up. And then the sun starts rising. And she's like, wait a minute. That's not Krypton, son. This isn't Krypton. And her heat vision activates, blows one of the metal robots away. And then it's just like 11 pages of just how's all of her superpowers going to destroy these people in mech suits. So heat vision, done. Dude is like freaking out because his suit is burning. And this entire time she's narrating just like, okay, what's happening? I gotta figure this out. I gotta try to piece this together. And she's just freaking out the whole time. At one point she thinks maybe this is Zod and how her father warned her that Zod was doing things and she's just trying to get away. Her super strength, she knocks one over a mountain. She takes an explosion. She's still alive. She runs like super fast. Her hearing activates. And in a weird touch, her super hearing activates. And it's quotes from comics from this week. Like there's a Nightwing quote here. There's a Birds of Prey quote here. Like, it's things I remember reading this week. It's super bizarre. Then she lets out a scream. I guess she has a sonic scream that like cracks a bunch of their armor. One of the guys grabs her, takes her down. She rips off the arm, gets the guy out of the suit, and is like just shouting at him, where am I? Who are you? But of course he can't understand her. She can't understand him. And so they're just babbling at each other in some language of just like trying to understand each other. Finally, takes a blue blur comes in, takes the people away, and then it's just Kara staring up at Superman, who in Kryptonian says stop. And that's where we leave the issue, where she says she thinks that she's dreaming again. I really like this. I really like the fact this is what I think when I first heard about the New 52 and when I first got into it. I think this is what I expected, where it is literally a restart point. They don't assume you know anything about any of these people. This is as bare bones as you can go with Supergirl, and it doesn't really set up anything for future issues throughout the entire issue up until the end of now she's going to talk to Superman. But I think that's for the best, you know? Like the only thing it sets up is that these metal robot guys, like, they see that she's coming in and then they go to collect her. Like, I want 2 intercept teams in the air before I finish this sentence. So, like, they know that she is there, or at least something is there, and that she's something worth having. That's the only thing they set up for future issues. So I don't really know where the plot's going to go, but I don't care. Like, it's just a solid, who is Supergirl? How if someone came to Earth and just immediately started getting all these powers, how would they react? And I think it's a good look at that. Art is fantastic. I really like how everything looks. It gets a good feeling for everything. It does feel kind of stock standard with the rest of DC, but like the scene where the sun's coming up over the mountains and she goes from freaking out in a sad way to freaking out in a mad way. That it's just a good sequence overall. So no, I'm loving the first issue of this. I'm giving this like an 8, maybe 8.5. I'm gonna go with 8. I think it could have done a little bit cooler stuff with the art to get it that 8.5, but overall I'm just gonna give this an 8, and it's very good. I'm really looking forward to seeing how long it takes her to actually become Supergirl, because right now she's just Kara, and I want to see how it happens when she talks to her little baby cousin Clark, or Kal-El, I guess. So yeah, I'm interested. You got me hooked. Good job, Mike and Mike. Green Lantern Corps #1, written by Peter J. Tomasi, art by Fernando Pasarin. If Green Lantern, adjectiveless, goes with Hal Jordan, and a book we'll get to later goes with Kyle Rayner, this one follows the rest of the Green Lanterns. Guy Gardner, John Stewart, the core, as is obvious by the title. So, just getting into it. We open in Space Sector 3599. There's some criminal there they trapped and who's threatening. And this is some random Green Lanterns, by the way. I don't even think they get a name. But a criminal's just threatening them, telling them how he's going to get out and kill them. And then all of a sudden he gets real quiet. And the Green Lanterns look and see that he's been split in half. They realize there's an intruder. They start scanning. One of the Green Lanterns gets decapitated. The other one turns around, gets their ring hand caught by some glowing green glove. They seem surprised at whoever they see. And then they're cut in half. And then their ring finger is also cut off. And it goes to fly and find a replacement. And the only thing that the whatever it is says is, where there is a force of will, there is a force of destiny. I don't know who this is, and they don't tell us for the rest of the issue, so that's our villain probably for the arc. Anyway, we get cut to Earth. Guy Gardner is in a planetarium, just wasting some time. He gets a reminder on his ring that he's late for an interview. He's getting a job interview to be a high school football coach, because Space Cop doesn't pay the Earth bills. So he arrives, and people are just, like, all the teachers are there just asking him a bunch of questions, like, how do the Green Lanterns work? What's the freakiest alien you ever met? What's your favorite sports teams? And he answers them all. He's very kind and forthgoing, but he's trying to get into the interview. Finally he gets in there. I'm assuming this is the principal that he's talking to. And he's sitting down. He's trying to get the job. He's saying how much it's a good fit for him. But the principal basically stops him dead and is just like, look, You're a space cop. You are a superhero, and you want to work around children. You don't see how that's super dangerous for the children? Like, you're qualified, but no. And he's like, okay, yeah, sorry to waste your time. Cut to John Stewart. He's an architect. He's showing off a building via the constructs in his ring, while also simultaneously explaining how the constructs work for the benefit of the people there and totally not for the audience in general. And they're like, look, John, this is great, but you're like really over budget because of all these extra safety features you're putting in that we technically don't need to put in. And he's like, well, we're kind of in the age of superheroes, and, maybe we should be putting in the extra safety for people who buy these places because they want to have a home. And he's like, right, but we don't technically need to put it in, right? So John builds the skyscraper construct. He brings them up to the top. He essentially threatens them, accuses them of taking bribes, puts them into a construct elevator, slams them back down to the ground, and then flies off saying even a Green Lantern can't fight City Hall. So that was an eventful day. Cut to this planet Narrow, same sector as before. It's a water planet that it's inhabited entirely by, as I can only describe them as, naked mole rats crossed with squids. Anyway, this whirlpool opens up. It starts sucking them all in. There's this full page of them just holding on for dear life. Cut back to Earth, or at least near Earth orbit. Guy and John are sitting on a satellite. Guy's like, man, why didn't we wear masks? Why didn't we have secret identities like the other guys? Like, we could still be able to live a life on Earth, but like we could be anywhere in the sector and still protect Earth. Why are we still trying to fit in here? And John's like, it's not a matter of we can or can't fit in. It's a matter of, did we ever really want to? So they take a moment of contemplation. Then they fly off towards Oa, a home of the Green Lanterns. The dude in charge, his name is Salak. And I say in charge, he's just running all the computers. Like, he's like flight control, I guess. He sees them coming, I guess, specifically Guy, and is like, oh, joy. He wonders why they're not in their sector. Guys are like, there are 4 lanterns. That's overkill. He's like, well, Hal's not really a lantern, but I see your point. They question about all these dead lanterns in Sector 3599. And he's like, well, we went to send replacements to... Or we got news that they died, so we sent 2 people to investigate. They also died, so now we're sending a special team. And the guys are like, cool, we'll help out because we've got nothing better to do right now. So they join this special team to go investigate the water planet, last known location of these guys. But it's not a water planet anymore. It's a big dirt ball, and they realize this is weird. Somebody has stolen the oceans of a water planet. Not only that, they murdered the entire race that inhabited the planet and skewered the 2 Green Lanterns to send a message to them. End of issue. I really like this book. I really, really do. I really like how Tomasi handled the writing. That moment where they're just sitting and contemplating on the satellite, looking down on Earth. It's such a nice little moment. I like the way he worked the exposition in, where they're explaining it to the people, but it's in a way that flows. It's in a way that works. It's not strictly for the audience. I like that. The art throughout, very good. I've never got confused as to what's happening at any point. It's all very clear. Might be a little bit of stock style, but honestly, it feels different enough. It feels just a little bit of extra touch of something that feels good. I'm honestly going to give this one 8.5. If you really twist my arm, I could probably go to 9, honestly. But I'm going to stick with 8.5 just because it is still more of a setup issue. But I mean, what bigger stakes could you set up than the death of an entire planet? That's pretty good stakes to set up. And I like how they've already made me attached to Guy and John, because they've shown me where their principles lie and how they feel deep on the inside, not just some surface level crap. So no, I'm really digging this. I don't know how it fits in with Jeff Johns' whole Master Green Lantern plan, but frankly, I don't care. I like this book on its own. So yeah, 8.5 from me. Definitely check it out if you haven't. Captain Atom #1, written by J.T. Krul, art by Freddie Williams II. I don't really know a lot about Captain Atom. Going into this, I knew that he was a pilot. I knew that he got in an accident. I know that he's the basis for Dr. Manhattan, and that's pretty much where it ends. So, just gonna jump into the book now. Opens up, Captain Atom's fighting this giant mech thing. It's as far as I can tell, it's just a dude piloting a mech suit. He's firing energy blasts at it. It's firing some energy back. And he's like, yeah, nice idea. Firing energy at the guy who can absorb energy. Smart. And he's about to fire an energy blast to break through the glass thing keeping it. But then he sees down to the atomic level and realizes, wait a minute, what if I just... And then he waves his hand, and all of the metal on the mech just turns to dust, leaving the dude inside completely naked. And then Captain Atom looks at his hand. He's like, well, that's not normal. And it zooms in to the atomic structure of his hand, and it's just slowly you see the atoms of him just dissipating. So he flies to the Continuum, which as far as I can tell is just a big super collider in Kansas somewhere. It literally says somewhere in Kansas. He talks to this girl named Renita, who is a research assistant there working with Dr. Nagala, who I guess was somewhat responsible for Captain Atom's accident. It doesn't really go that much into his accident, but basically he just wants answers as to, hey, what's happening to me? Because I've done a lot of things that I didn't think I could do. Finally gets in, talks to Nagala. He recounts the stuff that happened during the fight. The guy's like, okay, so... And he's basically Stephen Hawking. He's wheelchair bound. He's talking through some sort of mechanical device. But he's like, okay, so did it take a lot of energy? And he's like, no, it was just natural. I just made the metal dust. And he's like, and your fingers started dissipating at the same time? And he's like, no, it was one after the other. And he's like, okay, well, it seems to me it's a good thing it happened to your hand, because if this happened in your brain, you'd probably be dead right now. And he's like, okay, well, it sounds like what you're saying is your powers are killing you. That's what I'm saying. He's like, all right, cool. So anyway, apparently a situation starts arising as soon as he hears that. There's a seismic activity in New York, And it's not an earthquake, it's a volcano in Manhattan. And apparently it's not anyone's fault, at least not yet. It doesn't reveal that, but it's just, a volcano springs up in New York. Happens. So because it's Captain Atom, of course it also takes place right next to this nuclear reactor, which is in Manhattan, next to this volcano. So he goes in and he's like, all right, well, he said don't use my powers or it'll kill me, but I kind of got to stop this nuclear meltdown from happening if this volcano gets out of control. So he goes in, he absorbs all the energy from the nuclear fuel. And he's like, all right, well, it's contained, but I really got to concentrate because it's a lot of energy. And then the volcano starts erupting, and he's like, all right, how do I save these people from falling magma? And he's like, well, it's hydrocarbons. I can just reduce it to its basic stuff. So he changes it from falling magma to just hydrogen and oxygen and carbon, and just separates them into their atomic elements the way he did with the metal. But he's still not sure how he's doing it, and it basically just turns it all into snow. I actually skipped a page at the very beginning because it didn't flow with the story, but very first page is in San Francisco of this rat who's like next to this homeless dude. He's eating a cracker, and then his eye lights up. Now we cut back to San Francisco again, where this dude is seeing this rat. He's going for him because he's I guess going to eat him. It's a little bit unclear. And then the rat turns into this giant gooey monster with like 8 mouths. And then we just cut away again. So we're back in New York City. He's over top the volcano. It's spewing all this heat and radiation and stuff like that. So he's like, all right, I can absorb the energy from it, but it's going to be really hard on me. So he does. He can feel the atoms in his body splitting apart again. And he's like, man, I really just for once wish the doctor was wrong, as he does cool the volcano down, but seemingly at the cost of his own life. And there's this really cool text box here where only like half the letters are visible and some of them are faded out, but it clearly is supposed to say, if this is the end, at least I died doing something good for once. And just this brutal image of his falling apart body. I like this. I really like the art style the most. I really got to pass it to Freddie Williams. It doesn't feel like stock style at all. It feels very... I don't even know how to describe it. It almost has like a Vertigo feel to it, like the comic line. Like there's some heavy inks on some characters, but then like Captain Atom himself is very much a being of light, and it's got a glow to him and just this sort of painterly feel to it. I don't know. I really like it. I really like the art to it. Writing wise, it's fine. Because the dude doesn't really... I don't even know his name, but Captain Atom, because he doesn't really know what he's doing, we don't really get into the science of it that much. He's just a pilot. He's just a guy who got these powers. He knows as much as he has to in order to do his job. I do think volcano in the middle of Manhattan's kind of weird, just from a writing perspective, but hey, whatever. There's also this countdown timer going on each of the pages, but I don't think it's actually counting down. I think it's counting up, and it's at 250:8:52:31. Maybe that's how long he's been Captain Atom for? I don't know. But, I don't know. Writing-wise, it's fine. It's average. Nothing's really jumping out at me wow, that was really smart. But art-wise, I love it. It's fantastic. So I'm going to give this 7. It's good. I definitely am looking forward to what like that rat thing is all about. But it looks prettier than it reads. But it's still good. It's not awful. It's still good. So 7. DC Universe presents number 1, written by Paul Jenkins, art by Bernard Chang. This, in general, is an anthology book where each arc we're going to be switching up and talking about a different hero or team or something. And the first one is Deadman. And let me tell you, Deadman is dense, so I'm going to move very quickly through it because I want to be able to talk about it. So we open up. There's a biker. His name is Albert Albertson. He's got a death wish. and he makes this huge jump that he shouldn't be able to land. Well, he makes this huge jump. He shouldn't be able to land it. He doesn't land it, but he also doesn't die. He lands in a safety net. And this whole time, Deadman's talking over it, being like, okay, so this is this guy's story, but it's also my story, but also it's him, and he didn't die, but I didn't die, but I did die, but let me start over. And then we get the story of Boston Brand, the actual Deadman. He was a trapeze artist in a one-ring circus. He went by the name of Deadman. He wore all the makeup to look like Deadman, but he was a dick. Like, everyone just kind of hated him because he was awful. Until finally, there was an assassin who shot him, like, just shot him while he was in the middle of his trapeze stuff, and he fell down to earth. And when he died, he didn't totally die. He was saved, quote-unquote, by a goddess named Rama, who basically is saying, like, hey, look, right now you're a ghost. No one can see you. And you have to go and you got to quantum leap everybody. You got to jump into their bodies and you got to solve their problems. And only once you have helped all these people and made their lives better, and only then will you do it. You're making up for your bad deeds by doing good deeds. There it is. All right, go back and fix other people's lives. So he does, and he spends. Well, okay, I'll skip the next part. We're on to his current person. And the current person is a veteran who had his legs blown off in the war, and he has survivor's guilt because the entire rest of his team died. And Deadman's like, how am I supposed to help a dude with survivor's guilt? And we see him talking this out in therapy, but not actually talking because, he doesn't know how he's supposed to even get past it. This therapist just offers, if you want to honor them, maybe you should want to live. And Deadman is just talking about, like, I've been a spy, I've been a politician, I've been in the mafia, but more and more recently, I've been things that are much more, like, kitschy. Like, I was an old man who was filled with regrets. I was a stripper who, like, hates her dad, but also is so sad that she can't ever call him. Like, just some real weird, like, things that don't have a clear answer as to how am I supposed to make their life better. But the thing that's got him worried right now is the fact that none of these people are, like, leaving him. Like, he helps them, but then he still can feel them. He can still feel an attachment to them. And he's like, that doesn't feel right, but I can't contact Rama on demand. She's a goddess. Like, I just show up whenever she wants to, and I really need to talk to her about this. So he goes back to the one-ring circus of that he died in, and he talks to this psychic who's there. He possesses this little girl and says, like, hey, it's me, I'm Boston Brand. She's like, no, okay, I don't know who put you up to this. And then Boston just starts body jumping, which is essentially driving her insane, that all these random people, as she's passing her, just talking to her, saying that they're Boston Brand. Finally, she's like, look, I don't even believe that you're here, but even if I did, I'm not going to help you because you're a dick. And, she's having to say this to somebody, and of course he leaves the body just as he's saying you're a dick. Funny joke. Finally, she's like, all right, I'm going to have to come up with another idea. So he goes to the veteran. He's like, look, I don't know if this is going to work. I know you can't even hear me, but I'm going to have to do this, so wish me luck. He dives into the person. He gets control of their body, and then he holds a gun to his own head with the intention to pull. And that gets Rama to show up because, clearly he's about to go against his doing good deeds thing. But that is what Deadman wanted. And he's like, well, you're probably wondering why I've asked you to be here. And, yeah, that's it. I like it. I like this one. I've never really had an interest in Deadman because there's never really been a solid Deadman story, at least in as far as I know. But no, I really like where this is turning out just because, like, even Deadman isn't sure what's really going on. He's just told that he has to help these people. And then what happens as it gets more and more morally gray? Like, how do you help people in some of these situations? And I like that. I like that from a writing perspective of, like, what if a hero doesn't know the right thing to do? It's a good idea. Art-wise, it's solid. It's a lot of grays and whites and stuff like that, especially because, Deadman. But like anytime it's showing this veteran, it's all very dimmed out colors because he's got clinical depression and many different things like that. Like it fits the mood. Sometimes it's a bit stock standard, but it fits the mood, and I really do like it. Overall, I'm going to give this a 7.5. It's good. I like it. I'm looking forward to where it goes. It could completely lose me because I think just by virtue of this not being its own book, it's going to be a shorter arc. But if it can wrap it up, if it can get a good story going and then wrap it up nicely, more power to it. I'm willing to see where it's going off this first chapter. 7.5. We'll see what Paul Jenkins does from here. Wonder Woman #1, written by Brian Azzarello, art by Cliff Chang. It's Brian Azzarello doing what Azzarellos do. I can't explain it any better than that without just getting into the story. Okay, so opens up in Singapore. There's a dude pouring some drinks from 3 ladies up on top of a skyscraper. He's saying that, oh, I'm here for my job. I guess you could say I'm the son of a king. Son is spelled S-U-N. It's Apollo. That's okay. It's Apollo. There, we'll just skip the foreplay. It's Apollo. So anyway, he's talking to these ladies and kind of giving a little bit of hints as to who he is. Something about his father gets around, pisses off his wife, blah blah blah. Anyway, he picks up the girls and does something to them, as they say. They're on top of the skyscraper. They're like, we can see for miles, and he's like, nope, you can see forever. Cut to Virginia. A woman appears dressed in peacock feathers. She drops a whole bunch of weapons, walks into a stable, pulls out a scythe, slices the head off of a horse. Sorry, 2 horses. From their neck stumps come these grotesque arms and new heads. And someone from inside the house nearby looks out and it's like, hey, talking to this woman named Zola. Hey, Zola, we need to leave now. Zola has a gun aimed at the guy. And it's like, who are you? How'd you get in my house? And the guy's like, no time. They've come for you and your child. Who? She opens up the door to push him out of the house. And a giant arrow is shot in through this mystery person with chicken feet and wings on his feet. It's Hermes. Skipping to that one. He's clearly hurt as 2 centaurs come charging in to attack Zola. Hermes hands her a magic key. She holds up the key and teleports out. She teleports into Wonder Woman's bedroom. She walks over to the bed where Wonder Woman's sleeping. Wonder Woman instinctually grabs Zola by the throat and is like, who are you? Why are you here? Zola's like, oh, there were monsters going to kill me. I hope you're not going to kill me either. Diana asks who she is. She mentions the key, and Diana's like, okay, well, now you have my interest. So give me the key. She's like, I'm not going to give you the key. That's the only thing keeping me safe. She walks over, puts on her Wonder Woman gear, and is just like, all right, well, I'm going to protect you. So you're safe here. Stay here. Give me the key. So Zola's about to give her the key and then teleports again, this time with Diana, back to the stable. And it's just like, all right, well, I guess we're dealing with this. They see that it's all messed up. There's been a huge battle here. Someone's screaming inside. Another giant arrow comes out. Diana blocks it with the bracers. We just get into a long fight scene here of the 2 centaurs versus Zola and Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman knocks one of them out with a headbutt, grabs a sword, stabs one of them, throws the sword, cuts off the arm of the other one as they're trying to drag Zola away. This entire time there's this narration going on from the 3 women that Apollo was talking to. They're now the 3 fates, and he's just saying, hey, what do you see in the future? And there's all this cryptic stuff about a gathering storm, someone wearing a crown of thorns, your family is broken, beaten, and betrayed, your father has abandoned fate to someone who can blow away the smoke. and it's just not going to end well for Apollo or anybody, apparently. So Hermes stumbles out. They've cut the wings off of his feet. He pulls the arrow out from his stomach. He's basically dying, but not quite. Zola's still wondering what's up because Hermes says how they're coming for her and her child, but she doesn't have a kid. How can this be? Turns out she's pregnant with Zeus's kid. Surprise to everybody there. Cut back to the Fates. He's apparently whoever this prophecy is about, the one that can blow away the smoke or whatever, will kill one of the gods. One of the father's children will murder another and take their place. It's what your father wants, talking about Zeus. So then the sun starts rising. Apollo has to do his godly duty, and he burns these 3 women, sends them off the edge of the skyscraper, and goes away. And that's where the issue ends, with this prophecy and setting up that Zola supposedly has this child of prophecy because it is a child of Zeus. It's weird. Like, I can't overstate. Like, as soon as you get to the cutting off of the horses' heads and these grotesque arms and other heads pop out, like, from there it's just not turning back. It's also like it took me a read through and then a reread through to like really piece together what the Fates were saying about like the prophecy and stuff like that. I'm sure we'll get more as time continues on, but I think it was meant to be purposely cryptic, like you aren't supposed to get it, just so you have to continue to pick up issues. I do like the art style. The art style is it's playing with a lot of dark shadows and heavy lines and stuff like that. I like how it looks. The gods have very interesting looks themselves. I have read a couple issues of this, but I forget pretty much everything going on. But I remember I like how the gods look in this because they're very unconventional. Hermes is like a bird man. Apollo is just a completely like voidless like skin where it's just totally black, at least at night. In daytime, he of course is like fiery. I really like the way there's some imaginative stuff here, and I like the way that's going to turn out. I'm a sucker for a good mythology. So no, this particular issue, the confusion brings it down a peg, but it's still setting up enough, which brings it up a peg, so pretty net neutral there. I'm going to give this one a 7. I'm interested in seeing where it goes, but yeah, it's set up enough questions, but it's kept me at arm's length at the same time. The art and what I happen to remember that I can't shake out of my head are really what's going to keep me going here. So yeah, 7. Check it out if you want. It's Wonder Woman. Why not? Blue Beetle number 1, written by Tony Bedard, art by Guara. This is one of the very few issues so far that's had a prologue that's actually kind of useful in any meaningful way. We open up on a planet, Space Sector 2, long time ago. Someone is attacking the entire planet. They have an army to fight against it, just one guy. Shouldn't be too... The army gets destroyed. The army is absolutely destroyed. It's a Blue Beetle, looks just like the dude on the cover, except he's yelling Kaji Kai. And once he destroys the entire army, he's like, oh, these were my people. This was my planet. What have I done? And a dude comes down in a Blue Beetle thing, and he's like, hey, you did great. The Reach, our overlords, they're very happy with your performance. Why don't you become my new enforcer? Because they're going to cocoon the planet so that the Hive Masters can harvest... They'll have a bug theme going on, if that wasn't clear. So they're firing off scarabs throughout the galaxy, which are like parasitic things that make people into Blue Beetles against their will. One scarab pops out right in front of a Green Lantern. He gets a warning. He blows it away. He looks for debris, can't find any because it must have warped out at the last second. So heavily damaged, it falls to Earth during ancient Mayan/Incan times. Cut to modern day. Prologue over, by the way. Cut to modern day. Jaime Reyes is your average Hispanic high schooler. He's playing football at El Paso High School. Or sorry, not football. Football, aka soccer. But you know what I mean. Anyway, he's being picked on by some bullies there who give him a free kick to the face. One of his friends, who I guess is a dropout named Paco, comes up and starts threatening the bully. The bully runs off, and he asks Paco what he's doing there because he doesn't go to high school anymore. And turns out that a mutual friend of theirs named Brenda is inviting him to her birthday party because she's having her quinceañera at her aunt's house, and her aunt is so ludicrously rich that he actually needs to have a physical invite or the guards will not let her in. So Jaime's also looking forward to spending a little bit of time with Brenda, wink wink, and 3 hours later, he's talking to his parents. His parents are like, you're not going to that party. He's like, why not? It's like, that aunt is bad news. How do you think she got all that money? Like, we just want you to be safe, even if you hate us. And he's like, well, that's definite. Yeah, I definitely know. You know, he's 15. Like, it makes sense. Anyway, cut to the aunt's house. I'm pretty sure at the party. And the aunt is talking on the phone to essentially a group of either villains or hired killers or something, but they're breaking into this place looking for something. There is Brutal, Phobia, Warp, and who was the last one? Plasmus. I don't know what their powers are. Phobia is able to show people their worst fears. That's the only one that's really shown off. So anyway, they see what they were looking for the ant, and it was the Blue Beetle scarab that fell to Earth all those years ago. They don't understand the significance of it. They're like, who wants this? Whatever. We're being paid big time for it, so here you go. But as soon as they grab it, this other group of people, I don't know if they're good or bad, but people bust in. One looks like a wolf man, one looks like a scarecrow if he had a knife thing going on, and one looks like a Day of the Dead puppet. Cinco de Mayo. So they start fighting each other. Meanwhile, just up the road, Jaime and Paco are driving, and I guess Jaime's going to the party anyway. I don't know why we had that entire scene with the parents, but whatever. Jaime's going to the party with Paco. They see an explosion at the warehouse where this was taking place, and then the villains like come out right in front of their car and start fighting. The bag that had the scarab in it lands in the car. One of them starts beating up Paco just to get to the bag. Jaime grabs the bag, runs away with it. They give chase. The scarecrow knife guy throws a dagger, hits the scarab in the backpack, which makes it start to crackle and come to life, and it latches onto Jaime's back in a very, very brutal, like, diving into his skin scene. Like, you know that scene from The Mummy? Worse. And then he comes out and he's full-on Blue Beetle and he's yelling Kaji Da, whatever that means. So yeah, that's where we leave off with Blue Beetle existing. I like it. I like the concept of Blue Beetle a lot because it's, you know, just one small person in this much bigger fight of the Reach against everybody, I guess. Like, he's an unwilling participant in the bad guy's scheme, and I like, I don't know, that's a story that's not done often enough. I like that concept. Art is very good. It's pretty stock standard. There is a little bit of extra flair to it. Just gives it a bit more of like a grungy sort of feel, but for the most part it is stock standard. Writing wise, it's fine. The only critique I have is because it's set, you know, Hispanic family in El Paso, they use a lot of Spanglish, Spanish and English, just mixed matched on whatever here. But the part where he's talking to his family, they have it be, I'll just say it, Lo siento mijo, pero there's no way I'm letting you go to La Casa de Amparo Cardenas. And it says, translated from Spanglish. No, my friend, that's still Spanglish. That's very straightforward, still Spanglish. And they just continue like that the whole way down the page, where it's like, okay, I'm picking up on the general vibe of what you're putting down, but I'm also kind of unsure as to what you're saying. But hey, that's just me. I'm uneducated like that. So overall, I think I'd give this a 7. It's good. I want to see where it goes from here. I'm more interested in the concept of Blue Beetle than I am this particular story. Like, I don't care about the ant trying to kidnap the beetle. Like, it's on him. It ain't coming off, or at least it doesn't look like it's coming off. So, I whatever. I'm more interested in how Blue Beetle as a whole is going to take this particular arc. We'll see what it does, but right now it's anybody's guess. Legion of Superheroes #1, written by Paul Levitz, art by Francis Portela. Dear God, this is so dense. I just need to, they introduce you to everybody all at once. I can't keep track of that, but I'm going to tell you what happens. Alright, so Legion is invading this world. Not invading, they're going in on a covert op. I'm not entirely sure what for. It just says, this is a military watch world keeping an eye on Dominator's empire, and then contact was shut down. So now they're going to infiltrate, investigate, and blah, blah, blah. So they're just doing a recon mission. We have Chameleon Boy, who's a shapeshifter. Dragon Wing, who has fire breath and acid venom. Acid venom, sure. Phantom Girl, who can be intangible. Ultra Boy, who can use one power at a time out of supervision, strength, speed, or invulnerability. Chemical Kid, who can catalyze chemical reactions. That's all we get for right now. So then we have them move through the jungle. Everybody except for Dragonwing and Chemical Kid have these disguises that they're using to infiltrate. The other people are going to be used as a distraction later on so that they can get out. So they're left in the jungle, and then the other guys make their way towards the base. Cut into the Legion, I guess, headquarters, their base. Just says Starfleet, but I think that might be a joke. We get introduced to Colossal Boy, who can grow real big. And they're like, hey, Colossal Boy, aren't you sad you're not out in the field? And he's like, no, my wife died. And then we cut away from Colossal Boy. Chameleon Kid, Lad, Boy. Chameleon Boy shapeshifts into a fly to get some information as to where to go and what to do. He sees that they're nothing much except a reference to orders from Renegade, and then it cuts off, and then he has to find out what Renegade is. Cut back to the Legion thing. We meet Mon-El, who's basically Superman, but not. And Brainiac 5, who's an extremely high-level intelligence. And they're basically just talking about how the Legion of Superheroes had a whole bunch of deaths recently, a.k.a. probably in the story just before Flashpoint. Why can nobody reboot anymore? So they're talking about funerals, and then everybody else shows up. Cosmic Boy, who has magnetic powers. Element Lad, who can transmute stuff. Comet Queen, Spaceflight and Comet Gas Extrusion. Dream Girl, Precognition. There's 2 more. They show up later. Anyway, they're all just talking, just saying alright, well, stuff's going on and we need more people. They need more people. That's just getting to me personally. And Dream Girl specifically makes the point that Flashpoint Effect has definitively closed off time travel to the past. So, once again, they know about Flashpoint, they are aware that it happened, and it is stopping them from doing things. Okay. Mon-El's talking about how he was a Lantern. I vaguely recall that from Jeff Johns' run. And he's just kind of wistfully oh, I wish I was a Lantern again. It's dude, you're still basically Superman. Get over it. Back on the planet they're reconning on, the chemical whatever and Dragonwing are by a campfire pretending to be 2 teens that just got on the wrong planet for a hookup. They get captured by the military forces, and they're oh, this sucks. We shouldn't be bait. Then we get Glorith, who has magical powers. Harmonia, who's a natural elemental. They're both just talking about how more people died, and they're sad about that. Then we get Starboy, who can induce mass to increase weight. I don't even know what that means. But again, still just sad that people died. Pretty much it's all just everybody on the ship is sad that a bunch of people died that I don't know, but apparently happened. So then they're wondering, okay, wait a minute, this, by the way, we're back on the planet now. This military base that's not supposed to do this thing is actually doing this thing. Well, we're going to have to stop them. And then, right on cue, the Chemical Kid and Dragon Breath are sick of being bait, so they attack the guards that are going with them. And then it just turns out into an all-out fight. And then someone shows up. No, sorry. And then, oh god, what's his name? Ultra Boy starts tearing down the modified signal thing. But then he's stopped by this super powerful dude who apparently is also a Daxamite, which is what Mon-El is, basically Superman. And he's cool, so we're gonna fight a Daxamite. Good luck. That's how it ends. I have no idea what happened. There are so many characters. There are so many characters, and they're talking about things that I have never seen. Like, they're listing off and oh my god, nobody references each other by their superhero names. It's all by their real names. And they're like futuristic names. Like, Colossal Boy is Gim Allen. Chameleon Boy, Reap Daggle. Ultra Boy's pretty easy. It's Joe Nah. But still, all of them have future names, and I can't keep track of half this crap. Oh, God. This is so confusing and so hard to recap. There's a billion of them. Overall, I've never been big on Legion. Like, and art-wise, it's fine. It's stock standard. Nothing's really jumping out. They don't do anything super interesting. If anything, it's a little bit confusing sometimes because as soon as the one team lands on the planet, they put on some, like, disguises. So these people I'm already not used to are already in disguise and expect me to just know who's talking. No. I'm going to give this a 5.5. It was a bad intro issue. It was a very, like, I'm sure if you know Legion, it's fine. In fact, you know what? I'm going down to a 5. If you know Legion, it's fine. But this is just bad in terms of, hey, we're setting up a new status quo, but everything that happened beforehand still happened. So good luck, and especially when we have to deal with no less than 12 characters, all of which with middling mediocrity in their power set. Oh boy, it's gonna be something. I'm really gonna have a hard time keeping track of this one, or at least it feels like I will. Okay, yeah, no, it's a 5. I'll figure out something. I'll have post-it notes. I'll have a reference sheet next to me in order to keep track of what's going on in this. But no, Legion Superheroes, maybe a fine story if you can understand it. A very, very bad intro. And that's it. That is all the comic books for this week. Nothing from the edge, nothing from the dark, just a lot of Batman. So much Batman, but doesn't that just sum up the line in general? But enough about this week. Let's talk about next week's books. Next week is September 28th, 2011, and the books coming out are as follows: Batman, The Dark Knight, #1, Superman, #1, Green Lantern, New Guardians, #1, Aquaman, #1, The Flash, #1, The Fury of Firestorm, The Nuclear Men, #1, The Savage Hawkman, #1, All-Star Western, #1, Blackhawks, #1, Voodoo, #1, Teen Titans, #1, and Justice League Dark, #1. There's some definite hits in there. Flash, Aquaman, Flash, those are the books that I remember as being good. The rest of them, we'll see what happens as we read them. But hey, if you have any thoughts on the books I've just listed, the books I've just talked about this week, or any books I'm ever going to be talking about ever, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast. That is at DC Comics Podcast, all one word. Use the hashtag New52 so that way I can feel special and validated in my efforts. Additionally, we have a Patreon. Patreon is Mild Fuzz TV, all one word, Mild Fuzz TV. I have to pay into it, so do you. Break out your parents' credit cards or whatever. So yeah, that's it. That's all I really need to talk about. I don't know how long this episode's going to be. I really tried hard to keep it short, but I'm not going to be able to tell until I edit it all together. And I just noticed that this entire episode, for anyone who's been watching the video version, there's been a little typo that put 3 zeros instead of 2 on the episode number. Whoops. Can't fix it now. Sorry. I'm not going to say shambles. That's not my thing, but shambles. So, yeah, that's it. Wrap up. I will see you all next week. And always remember, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.